All right, geometry, welcome back to my garage, and Mr. Howell teaches this time the converse of the Pythagorean Theorem. We did the Pythagorean Theorem last week and a couple months ago. This is a review. This stuff's on the SAT, so it's good to remember this stuff and how to use it. So I'm going to try to teach you as quickly as I can so you guys can get this information. Remember, the Pythagorean Theorem says that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And that is because you're dealing with the right triangle. Remember, a right triangle looks like this, has a little right angle, and that's going to be a right triangle. Right? And that means that you have that equal to part. That means that this side is equal to that side. Well, what happens if the hypotenuse is too long or too short? You create an acute or an obtuse triangle. It looks like this. So over here, I'll say, well, what if that hypotenuse is a little bit too short? We don't really make a right angle there. This is going to be an acute triangle. That means that if we have a squared plus b squared is actually bigger than c squared, that means that's too short. That makes it acute. The hypotenuse is too short. Instead of making a nice right angle, it's going to kind of tilt up like that or tilt in. You're not going to have that 90-degree angle. It's going to tilt in and make a acute angle. Likewise, if you have that situation where the hypotenuse is actually a little bit too long, it opens up a little bit more, right? Then you have the a squared plus b squared is less than c squared, or it means this one's too big or too long. That makes that an obtuse angle. Obtuse triangle, acute triangle. So here's your situation. If we look at some examples from your worksheet, you'll have to do numbers 9 through 18. Number 9 looks like this, where you have this triangle, and I'll kind of give you a hint here. It's going to look like this: 15, 9, and 12. Anytime you deal with numbers like this, you know that the biggest number has to be the hypotenuse. So the 15 is going to be that c value. Even though it's not a right triangle, the 15 is going to have to be the c value. The 9 and the 12 are going to be the legs if it is a right triangle. So it kind of looks like this, where you'll have 9 squared plus 12 squared. And we kind of say a little blank there. How is that compared to 15 squared? And you know, if you put in your calculator, 81 plus 144 compared to 225. A little blank there. We don't know how that goes yet. This is actually going to be 220 when we add that up, and 225. We'll tell you that side's bigger. So the hypotenuse over here, that c squared value by itself, is too big. It's not equal to, if it was 220 equals 220, we'd have a right triangle. But this c value is too long. If it's too long, too big, it makes it an obtuse triangle. So this is simply asking you to use the Pythagorean theorem, but use it backwards. That's what converse means. You have the a squared, b squared, c squared. They're giving you all three sides. Plug those into a squared, b squared, c squared, and see how that hypotenuse compares to this side. In this case, the 225 is bigger than 220, which it should be for a right triangle. So that makes the triangle an obtuse triangle. Boom, simple as that. If you move on, 16 on your worksheet is this: 9.6, comma 18, comma 20.1. If I plug them into the Pythagorean theorem, that would be my hypotenuse. So I'd say 9.6 squared plus 18 squared. How is that compared to 20.1 squared? When I do that, I'm going to get 92.16. I already did the work. You guys might need to use your calculators. Plus 324. How's that compared to 404.01? When I bring these together, I get 416.16. And that's going to be bigger than the 404.01. So in this case, it should be 416.16 is equal to 416.16, but 404 is less than this 416. This is too small or too short, right? So since this is too short to make a right triangle, that means that right angle closed down a little bit and ended up being an acute triangle. Acute triangle. So you have both those cases, either obtuse in this situation where the hypotenuse ends up being too big, or an acute in this situation where the hypotenuse ends up being too small. It's kind of like Goldilocks, too hot, too cold, or just right. Let's do one that's just right. The last one, number 18, let's see if I can fit it here. Number 18 looks like this. It says 4.8, comma 28.6, comma 29. If I put those into the Pythagorean theorem, 4.8 squared plus 28.6 squared plus 29 squared. Oh, sorry, I'm saying how is that compared right there to 29 squared? I get 23.04 plus 817.96. And how does that compare to 841? And if you add these together, you actually get 841 is equal to 841. That takes us back to the beginning. Since the left side is equal to the right side, we get that right triangle, that nice case where you have the a squared plus b squared is equal to the c squared. And then we have a right triangle. So this is basically saying let's classify triangles when we're given three sides. Remember last week we knew two of the sides and we had to solve for the third side because we had a right triangle. Now this is saying let's use the Pythagorean theorem backwards, and we're going to give you all three pieces, all three pieces, all three pieces, all three pieces. The biggest side has to be that c value if it is the hypotenuse. If you plug them in here, this is the three situations you can get. Either they're equal to each other, one's the hypotenuse is too short, or the hypotenuse is too long. And then it would be an acute or an obtuse, respectively there. Here's some examples. I believe you have to do 9 through 18 on your worksheet. If you have any questions, do what you can, and then have these in your notebook. Show me the work, and be at our chat on Thursday so we can look at it. You can show me in your webcam, or you can take a picture of it with your phone and email it to me. And we'll talk more about that on Thursday at 10 a.m. is your classroom session in Google Hangouts Meet. Hope to see you all there this week so I can give you credit. I want to give everybody 100. I want you to earn 100 for the year and keep your fourth marking period grade up so you finish the year strong. I'll talk to you guys on Thursday. Hope to see all of you there. Have a great day.